Hello everyone, good afternoon, and a warm welcome to a webinar on how to manage your stockpile material efficiently with LiDAR. My name is Magdalena Hündlinger, and I will guide you through the next approximately 45 minutes. First up, a few technical notes. In case you can't see us or the control panel, a small gray arrow is on the right side. Just click on it and the sidebar in the video, as well as the chat, should appear. If you have any questions already during the webinar, just enter them in the chat. This will be especially relevant at the end of the session for the Q&A session. Our expert speaker who is here with me today is Florian Petit, Blickfeld co-founder and Chief Experience Officer. Florian will start to introduce himself and Blickfeld before he moves on to a short introduction to common challenges in stockpile material management and how LiDAR-based volume monitoring solves them. After that, we'll jump right into some real-world examples from customers across various industries, as well as the 5 steps to your solution.
Yeah, thank you, Magdalena, for the welcome. Hello, everybody. I just checked the list and I see a few familiar names and a few new names. Welcome, everybody. Super happy that you joined us today. And I'm excited about this webinar, about the topic. And I would say, let's go. A few words to myself. My name is Florian Petit. I'm one of the founders. I founded Blickfeld together with Rolf and Matthias, my 2 co-founders, almost 6 years now ago. I have an engineering background. I got my PhD in robotics. And actually, robotics is a lot about seeing and understanding the world. And very similarly, our motto here at Blickfeld is to make the world smarter, safer, and more efficient. And what that means, we'll see in this very exciting webinar today about stockpile management. A few words to Blickfeld. We are here a Munich-based companies, but we are international, operating with offices in China and the US. We have strong customers and strong partners. Our few financial partners here to name are the Continental AG or Osram, and for example, also Unternehmertum or Tengelmann. And as mentioned, we are operational all over the world, and we have many smaller and also bigger companies. And I see them also today. Again, a warm welcome. I hope now everybody's on board. And let's jump right into the topic of stockpile management. What is a stockpile? You see here a stockpile. This is actually a fertilizer stockpile, which is just filled here with a wheel loader. Another stockpile could be this, for example. This is wood chips in a recycling factory, actually in Great Britain. And last but not least, also this is a stockpile. Actually, this is trash, but trash is a very expensive in the meantime and especially valuable resource. And this is stored in stockpiles. And actually, these are just 3 examples. If we want to categorize them, there are many more categories. For example, in construction, you see stockpiles occurring, be it asphalt, be it concrete, be it raw materials. You have it in waste. We saw light waste, heavy waste. There's wood waste. And actually, the circular economy is a big thing. It's a very important thing, I think, not only for the economy, but also for society. We see recycling all over the place. And also, for example, metals are being recycled more and more and are stored in stockpiles. Mining is obvious, I would say, be it minerals, be it ores, be it concentrates. For example, copper concentrate is stored in huge piles and of huge value. But then we also have the whole agriculture sector, be it fertilizers, be it cattle feed, and be it grains. Or for example, also salt for the streets is also stored in stockpiles. And actually, this is only a small portion of what stockpiles can really contain. I didn't talk about the whole pharmaceutical industry or the plastics industry. I would say for many of the items we are operating today, they are coming from stockpiles, from materials which is stored in stockpiles. And the funny thing is, stockpiles are one of the least digitized assets in the world. So why is that? Let's look how stockpiles are today observed or measured. The most common way of measuring a stockpile is by eyeballing it. Somebody goes there, looks at the pile and says how big it is. Undigital per se. The next one, a bit more technical, is measuring incremental portions. So a wheel loader comes, picks up a shovel of material and is dumped in again. You count how many shovels you're dumping on a pile. That's a way to measure how big the pile is. And you can do this also by crane, for example. Trash organized a lot in cranes. How many crane picks are dumped on this pile? This is a way to measure the size of a pile. And here I would say even the most accurate is this point in time measurements. You order somebody a service to come to you to measure the stockpile, but this is actually very expensive and only done very seldomly, like once a year, for example. What is the problems about this? Why is it a problem that you're using such a method? Actually, the most important, or one of the most important one, is that it's highly inaccurate. I know nobody admits, and I don't want to step on somebody's feet here, but estimates by humans are only about 20% accurate. The thing is, we can very well see color, but for humans, it's very hard to have like a quantifiable number, especially of a volume. 20% accuracy is what you get also from these incremental portion measurements. And the third point here, for example, is very non-real timey, let's say. So going there and measuring it once a day is obviously non-real time, and normally people go there once a week. And if you measure it once a year, obviously it's not at all on demand. And the third thing is it's not digital. Where are the problems here? If you look at a stockpile and then write it down on the papers, believe it or not, but very regularly problems just transcribing the numbers arise. We have proof of that. You see it directly in the measurement values. This is a very common problem. And actually all these things are not only a problem for the measurement itself, it's not about the measurement. That's what we see on the next slide. So the measurement is just the technical problem, but all these things have an effect on normally processes in the whole business. And what are some of the problems we encounter with the organization and the use of stockpiles? I assembled here 5 points, and actually there are many, many more. Each industry has their own ones, but these 5 are very common and actually easy to understand. So the first one is inventory accountment statement. Stockpiles are asset, and you have to report on them. If you report with only with a 20% inaccuracy, obviously it makes a huge business if you are accurate or 20% inaccurate. It actually has a impact on the business value. If one of your shareholders gets only a 20% accurate value, that is a problem, not only for this reporting, but it can also be a problem, and it can create a legal and financial liability for you. The next thing is you have to normally stockpiles are redistributed. You have to buy them, you have to move them around, and you have to sell them. If you're inaccurate, you will have costs associated with this inaccuracy. If you could buy 20% more and it would make your production more efficiency, it makes a big difference if you're having this 20% accuracy or if you don't have it. It's very correlated, this point about distribution, with the next point of optimized planning. Of course, if you have such an asset, you want to plan not only days or hours ahead, you want to plan sometimes weekends, sometimes months ahead. And it's very important to track very precisely how much you have in stock for the planning, but then also for the tracking during this whole process for the next weeks and months. This normally is directly related to a lost revenue. So if you have 20% accuracy, it very often happens that you have 20% in lost revenue. In not only the last 2 years, but especially in the last 2 years, raw goods have been gaining in value. And today, many of our customers use the raw materials for trading. If you have copper on stored or aluminum stored, it is very important to know exactly how much you have, because if you have 1,000 tons which you could trade, obviously there is already tens of thousands of euros associated to this volume. And if you have 20% more or 20% less, that makes a big difference in your balance sheet. And last but not least, this is still a manual process, being the truckloads or be it this eyeball measurement or even the service is a manual process. You have to make sure that process is happening. You have to make sure it's of the right quality and it costs money. I would say humans are the most valuable resource of a company, and wasting them for measuring stockpiles is actually not a good thing. So automating this whole process is also one of the very important things which needs to be done. All right, we talked about the challenges, we talked about the problems. How can we solve this now? What is needed here, and we don't only see it for stockpiles, but we see it like basically in every areas of the business. What we need is a digital solution that is automated, so runs hands-free. Nobody has to take care of it, and it still produces the needed results. Of course, it has to be as accurate as possible, because if you want to make decisions, the decisions it depends on the data. The better the data, the more precise this information you're getting from it, the better your decisions will be. And of course, it has to be available. It has to be a continuous measurement. It has to be 24/7. So most problems arise if you don't look at it. So you need something which looks at it all the time, be it on the weekend, be it during holidays. That is when the things go down, go south normally. So you need something which is there, precise and hands-free. How does the solution look like? Let's have a look at the following video of a warehouse with bunkers for stockpiles. Here you see the stock material. Multiple sensors will have the stockpile in their eyes. These are sensors which digitize the stockpiles multiple times per second and create a high definition 3D model of it. Here you see tens of data points capturing the stockpile, and actually it goes on to a software which then takes all this data. It's way too much data for humans to understand it, but the software is very good in crunching data and extracting the valuable number of the volume which is there. Tens of thousands of data points get to one number which contains the truth. This was very quick, so let me break it down. There are three parts to the solution. First, you need the sensor technology. You need a sensor very similar to a camera, but much more precise and adapted to measuring volumes. Then you gather all the data. You see here again tens of thousands of data points which have the information about the volume. You need a software which crunches it. Here in turquoise, it extracts the relevant data of what you want to measure. Obviously, we catch much more around, like for example, where the building is, but nobody is interested in the volume of the building at that stage. You want to know the volume of the material you have there. The software crunches it. And actually, to be frank, these two steps you will in most cases only see once in your life, because of you don't care how it is done under the hood. What you want to have is the actionable data. You don't want to have the thousands of data points. You want to have the one information data point, and that readily available. And that's actually what is in most cases shown in such a dashboard. Let's have a look at this dashboard. There are a multitude of information. First, you get a visual impression of how your heap is looking. I mean, this is an assistant system. It is to look at how this 3D model is looking like is valuable for you, just for making sure that the quality, just for checking that everything is all right. And then the important number here in the middle is the volume. Of course, you can look at the volume as it is right now, but you can also have the volume data of the past 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 months. This is available also at your fingertip here in the lower left shown. And then, of course, you don't want to look at it all the time. What you need is alarms and reports. And the alarms and reports section is here on the lower right. You can set, for example, minimum alarms if stock is running low. You can have maximum alarms if you're getting to the maximum. We'll talk about a very important use case in a second where a maximum alarm is relevant. But you can also have scheduled alarms once a day, having a report which says how much stock is available. And again, readily available, which means today we are on the road all the time. I almost would say, if you have a dispatcher, he'll not have his computer in his all the time on his lap. He'll have his computer in his pocket. So this system is a modern Web3 data dashboard. This is available on the computer, but of course also on mobile devices. I'm talking about how it is available and how it is used. So this was the technical section. Let's now have a look at some success story, how it is applied. And again, I love technology, but what I'm interested in is how technology can benefit the business. So let's see. So we again selected 4 cases which I want to present, and they solve all 4 more or less solve 4 different use cases. The first one is revenue loss due to interruptions in production. The second one is a liability risk due to inaccurate reporting. The third one is inefficiency in sales and decision-making processes. And last but not least, it's about inaccurate reporting and inventory accounting. So the first case is about a waste burning facility. What you here see is a bunker of a waste burning facility. How this store is managed actually, weigh bridges, monitor how much material, in this case precious trash, is filled into this waste bunker. Why is this important to know how much is in there? Because of this waste burning facility actually is generating power. It's a waste to energy facility. And it has to be made sure that there is all the time enough waste to produce the energy. If here's a shortage comes up, and a shortage, for example, could be that there's not enough trash. It could be that the energy production is interrupted, and then for example, in the worst case, we have outages, power outages for the cities. So just to give you a number, we in Germany have more than 100 waste to energy burning facilities operational every day, 24/7, serving us. So it has to make sure that the process can run, but it of course gets even more, gets even deeper. This burning process is very, very complicated, especially to make it environmentally friendly. We have to run these facilities at the optimal point all the time. And here the quality of the material goes in. The quality comes together from the weight, but it also comes from the volume. And you have to serve this burning process all the time at the optimal process to make sure that our carbon and also different other pollution materials are not disposed freely, that they are disposed as little as possible to make sure the whole process is environmentally friendly. So one of our customers is such a waste burning facility. Actually, we are equipping multiple of these facilities right now at the moment, but it showed already we have customers which are running this now for multiple years already, and it directly showed that the whole process can be improved. These facilities now have such a highly precise and available digital twin basically available for them to make sure the process is running not only continuously, but also at the optimal point. And there was one more point which added to this equation, which is actually transparency. So I already talked here about CO2, and we'll see it also in a later case. There's a reporting and there's a tax on it, and this reporting, this tax is also enabled by such a digital solution. So here we had we could make sure that the process is running continuously at an optimal point, and that we even can report it in a timely and precise fashion. The second case is what we showed already for wood waste recycling. Again, the method to measure how much waste is available is by eyesight. However, the value of the solution is in a total different direction. Actually, it's in a very critical direction. It's about liability of the whole business, and not only that, but also of the people running the business. So there is a regulation coming from fire hazards and fire departments, how much wood or wood material you are allowed to store. This is because of this wood material you see it already with the smoke plumes can burn. If you store too much, you're coming over the regulation, and actually your insurance will void. You will not be any more covered by the insurance, and eventually this will come down to a personal risk. So the operator of the facility has to ensure that not too much waste is stored in this facility, and he has to make that sure by a personal liability in the worst case. There's also, so this is very, very bad and very, very risky for him, but there's also an economic side of that. So if you're not storing any, obviously you're not making any money. So the interest of the person is to store as much possible, but to stay in a safe limit. And by deploying such a digital solution, here you see the digital image of that, actually that immediately was possible to comply with the regulation, to ensure that he is within the regulation and to take basically all the risk of the business and of the shoulders of the operator. That was directly possible by this digital solution. And further on, he could improve his business because of now he knew exactly how much he can buy and how much he can distribute. So having it available in digital form, and not only to risk off his shoulders, but allowed him to expand his business and to run it at an optimal point. Very interesting use case. The third use case is coming from a total different direction. This is a global, multinational, multi-billion fertilizer company, which produces high-valued fertilizer, thousands of tons of fertilizers a month in multiple warehouses. And actually, here the problems came from a very different area. So actually, they exactly know how much material is coming into these factories, and they exactly know how much they sell. However, as this is a multinational business, they have more than 100 warehouses distributed globally, and they distribute in between these warehouses. And actually here it gets much harder to track the inventory. How they do it today is they use a service which is expensive and only comes once a year to measure what their inventory is. And this is a big problem because of it is then very hard to distribute it correctly and to ensure that the sales process is running smoothly. To be frank, the sales had a very hard time to say how much there is is available today and how much there's available in weeks. And this resulted in shifts of their delivery points of times for their customers, and thereby but a lot of trouble basically with their customers and for their customers. With the digital solution, again, the sales process and the logistic and the inventory process could be changed and optimized immediately. Now the sales have the exact precise inventory available from all the locations at their fingertips, available immediately. So it was shown that a 2-digit improvement of the sales could be achieved just by implementing this digital solution. So here, highly on-demand and accurate shipments could be ensured, and the whole, like a big burden, could be relieved from the shoulders of the whole enterprise. Last but not least, we are coming again to a different view on this problem. This is about, again, multinational cement production factory producing just in this location thousands of tons of cement every month. Today, actually it's about inventory. They had to give inventory statements each month, and they are doing it by eyesight. Actually, highly paid people are going there to estimate the inventory, because of today, not only in Germany and Europe, there are laws which tax the CO2, and cement actually produces per ton cement 0.6 ton CO2. So what we need is we need to accurately report the CO2 production. Otherwise, they'll pay just too much. So multiple stakeholders involved and high costs for the CO2 production. Again, this digital solution with a very high accuracy of here 1 to 3% could make sure that the right amounts are reported, that the right amounts are paid, and actually that it's directly available and not highly paid people with, unfortunately, a bad sense to estimate volumes had to go there and basically waste their time. Now, even I mean, it gets more and more important, and I think it's super important not only for business but for society to understand where our carbon production comes from, what our carbon footprint is if we build something, and construction material is a high contributor to that. With this solution, the understanding of the whole process could be also improved. So these were the cases of our customers where they implemented this. I guess one of the big questions is, all right, we understood it, but how did they do it? And actually, there are 5 steps to that, which I want to present now. The most important step between us as a provider and you as the customer is the first step to get going. We need to understand, and you need to understand, what do you want to measure? Where do you want to measure it? How often do you want to measure it? And further KPIs. For us and for you, it's not important to know how much there is, but how to improve process behind it. What are the KPIs? What are the processes you want to improve? That is important for you and of course for us to optimize the return on investment. We want to make you a solution which is as cheap as possible but serves still your KPIs. So to figure that out, that is the most important step between you and us. And then actually it goes a lot on us. What we'll do in a second step is we will run a highly precise simulation of your warehouse, of your application. We'll figure out where to mount the sensors, what the precision will be, and where to install it. Then we are at the third step, which is the installation. Normally, you, our customer, does the installation just because of it's more efficient and cheaper and you know how to do it. But in the fourth step, we will check on this installation to make sure it is done in the right way. We invested a lot of effort in making the simulation. Now we will check that the simulation matches the reality. We'll look at the 3D model and then we will go right into positioning the volume zones. We make sure that the software measures the right things and gives the right output. That is all on us. You will not have to do anything to do with that. That's not a liability for you. That is something we do for you. And with that, actually, we are already at the last step with this go live and training. We will show you exactly how it looks in the digital world. We will show you how it matches to the real world. We explain the whole system to you, and then of course make sure that the data you want is available in the dashboard and you understand where to find it. And we will make sure that this is an as easy and as hands-free process for you as possible. 5 simple steps. You're involved in the first one, the third one, and the third and fourth one. We will make sure this runs as smoothly as possible. Actually, it's a kind of a quick process. We can make it run, depending on the size on the product, in between 2 and 6 weeks maximum. All right, here we are already almost at the end. Let me subsume. Today's problems in stockpile material management are solved by such a digital solution. Readily available, automated, and highly precise. These are the 3 things we are committed to. And this actually has many benefits for your business. First, it prevents revenue losses, for example, to making sure that the production process is running smoothly. It can get the burden of a liability risks off your shoulder by making sure you are within the right limits. It can optimize your sales by you knowing what is on stock and then being able to trade it. And last but not least, reporting is super important to running a business, to make sure that you have the right reporting and accurate reporting. That is something that such a solution will make sure. And with that, we are at the end of my part.